May 3rd, 2075. A day humanity will never forget. What used to be every child's dream now felt closer to being a reality than we had ever thought possible. The vision of Dr. Scott Childress and his expert team of engineers made this happen. It wasn't without personal sacrifice. To do this, he spent so many hours away from his family, friends and loved ones, but no one could question if it was worth it. His daughter told it best in an excerpt from her diary. "Mummy made omelettes again today. I was colouring when I saw Daddy on the holo. There he was, standing next to the President. They were talking about space and stuff, which was cool, but he looked so important standing there. We hadn't seen him for so long. He had a beard now. Mummy doesn't like it, but I think it looks funny. Whenever Daddy was about to leave, I asked him why he had to work all the time, and he always told me the same thing. He was trying to give me the stars." He delivered. Dr. Childress made the breakthrough that humanity had been waiting for. Capable of achieving 1/100th of the speed of light, the self-sustaining quantum drive engine had finally been produced. The quantum drive engine involves the manipulation of energy density. This would expand and contract space around the ship by encasing the vessel inside a bubble. The bubble it creates makes the space in front of the object contract and expands that density of space into the rear. Importantly, anything inside the bubble, including the pilot and fleet, feel no effect of this acceleration, which would otherwise prove fatal. The unparalleled speed and distance this revolutionary technology could achieve meant that for the first time in our history, we could explore the far reaches of space. We were no longer citizens of Earth. We were now citizens of the stars. Almost 40 years on from the moment that changed human history, space is no longer an unknown. And Earth? Well, it's even more overcrowded now than it ever had been. Overpopulation was threatening the very existence of our species. There was simply not enough resources left to sustain the human race. But there was hope. Robert Space Industries, or RSI as they were going to be known, had got us all fascinated about new technology that could expand our horizons and take mankind to live somewhere new. Hannigan Terrell's article in the United Times got a few people thinking and divided the nations of Earth. The article has been preserved to this day in the United Times archives. Unless you've been hiding under a rock for the past week, you've no doubt heard of RSI's latest achievement. So let me recap for the rock dwellers. They claim to have designed a machine that can process the atmosphere of a planet to convert it to a sustained oxygen environment, making it habitable for humans. In short, they're talking about terraforming. Yeah, that's right, the stuff of science fiction. I know everyone's excited about the opportunities this presents, but no one seems to be taking a breath and thinking what this really means. So once again, it's up to me to be the voice of reason in this techno-hysteria. That's right, dear readers. I'm going to ask the question that no one is asking. You ready? If we can terraform a planet, why should we? I'll give you a second. Think about that. I'll say it again. Just because we can do something, do we have to? I know the pundits over at SSN TV will like to poke fun at me, make me out to be a technophobe, but I'll tell you this, I didn't have a problem with the cloning initiatives. I didn't even have a problem with the gene coding to minimise inherited disorders and diseases. Those things were achievements to help make lives better. What is this for? What is it in aid of? At what point are we going too far? Seriously? We're talking about restructuring the very air of a planet. The planets we're talking about were formed like that for a reason. Who are we to assume that the universe wants us to mould planets to benefit us? We aren't gods, and playing around with the fundamental fabric of a planet is arrogant and dangerous. I know this is probably going to fall on deaf ears. The world is too high, basking in our own magnificence. But I promise you, nothing good will come of this. Was Hannigan right in questioning our moral position? Was it really our decision to change the very construct of a planet? Then again, did we really have any other option? "7 years of simulations and tests. 45 years after the creation of the self-sustained quantum drive engine. The year, 2120. The mission, Planetary Conversion. Over the millennia, it has been called the Firestar, Horus the Red, Angaraka, the Red Planet. Now, it's only known by one name. Test subject, Mars. Teams of specialist surveyors were dispatched to the planet's surface of Mars to gather insight into the shapes and features of its surface. They landed at what we know now as Port Renatus, the first city. The topographical maps they created were crucial in deciding where best to place the Atmo processor reactors needed to convert the inhospitable atmosphere of the Big Red Planet into one that would allow humans to leave our native Earth and venture forth into the verse. These processors would also test surface samples for possible contaminants in the new oxygen environment. If this mission was successful, it could allow us to colonise the numerous planets in our solar system. We would never need to worry about the overcrowding of Earth and maybe take back control of our own destiny. Was Hannigan right? Our quest for a new life came at the sacrifice of 4,876 members of the scientific community on September 13th, 2125. A sacrifice that would be remembered in the years and centuries to come. The sad truth is that they were so close. 2 days. 2 days and Mars would have been declared fully secure. Instead, the heartbreaking incident set back decades of research and hard work. An oxygen-sustaining environment had been established for 2 weeks prior to the incident. The scientific community on the planet's surface were vetting the system when the tragedy struck. Their confidence in the research and results that they were reporting was evident due to the fact that, unfortunately, none of the Martian community were wearing any breathing apparatus. The logs from Sentinel-News.org, still preserved today, reported that the incident happened so quickly that there were no actions that could have been taken to save any of those who were involved. Whilst there was no immediate statement issued by any government on the cause of the incident, reports from an unnamed government official stated the atmosphere didn't stick. It's widely believed that a chemical miscalculation caused the planetary atmospheric processes to make the new atmosphere unstable, resulting in the catastrophic loss of almost 5,000 people. There are, however, others who have their own theories. Theories that the AI had a much more significant role to play. The tragedy remained at the epicenter of conversations across the globe, and rightly so. Was Hannigan right to question the ethical nature of terraforming? What remained unclear at the time was whether this incident would put an end to the repopulation of Mars. After the Mars tragedy, the RSI continued to invest in the efforts to complete the terraformation of Mars. Utilising the technology of the quantum drive engine, the Zeus was the first prototype ship to be created under the RSI name for commercial use. The ship, guided by trained military pilots, was able to deliver resources to Mars to support the ongoing terraformation mission. Despite the need to complete the terraforming of Mars, the world remained excited at the prospect of becoming star citizens. They were, however, also becoming increasingly frustrated at the technology being restricted solely for military purpose and petitioned for its release. Their petitions were centred on the fact that in order to make space travel a reality for civilians, and for it to become a part of commercial tourism on the whole, it was crucial that the quantum drive engine and its technology was released to the private sector. The RSI were listening to these concerns, and continued to streamline the technology to make it available for such use. The RSI were vocal with their concerns over the hull integrity of the Zeus, and how it would be handled when controlled by non-military trained pilots. These concerns culminated on the 23rd of June 2136, when a test flight, broadcast to millions across the globe, went disastrously wrong. As the craft left the Earth's atmosphere, the hull of the Zeus prototype tore itself apart, leaving nothing behind but scrap metal and another life tragically lost. Another name added to the increasingly growing list of those who have been lost in our quest for affordable and accessible space travel. Suddenly, civilian excitement of this pursuit was overshadowed by the harsh reality of the sacrifices being made for humanity's own advancement. With mounting pressure on the RSI, they needed to develop an immediate strategy to not only make the Zeus prototype successful, but to also prevent the loss of further lives. The RSI would turn to renowned test pilot Michel Celino. Celino was experienced with the quantum core engine, being the first pilot to use it to quantum jump past Jupiter. She had already been vocal in stating the need for dedicated test pilots who could specialise in piloting cutting-edge spaceships. It was her drive to make space travel safer that would form a fundamental part of her proposals. The RSI couldn't deliver on Celino's proposals alone, and so turned to the Navy. It was their resources that led to the creation of an elite team of test pilots, known as the Reckless, the infamous 999 Test Squadron. Experienced pilots alone were not enough to overcome the challenges faced in making space travel safe. Over the next year, Celino and her crew made it clear that before any further test flights would take place, fundamental changes needed to be made to the ships that RSI were creating. The design of the Zeus's hull needed a complete overhaul, and Celino fought hard with RSI executives and designers to enforce this change. Almost a year after the failed test flight of 2136, on 19th of March 2137, Celino would embark on her first test flight of the Zeus. At 15:09 standard Earth time, Celino safely completed her mission. The Zeus would inevitably require more testing, but the release of the first commercial quantum drive enabled ship was now just a matter of time. In 2140, the short-range explorer with a cabin for 3 people, featuring RSI's patented Quantum Core 8 engine and BTST-rated thermal shields, was released for commercial sale. The Zeus was finally here. Celino became an overnight sensation. She was known as a risk-taker, willing to sacrifice her life so that all of humanity could go to the stars. Despite this, she never faltered from her original view that space travel, however exciting, should never come at the sacrifice of those we love. A test pilot's job isn't about taking risks. It's about achieving results. It's about safely landing again, just as much as it is about fearlessly flying forward. In 2157, we would finally fulfill our destiny. In memory of those who worked so hard to pave the way to a better, more fruitful, everlasting future, Mars was officially classified as an oxygen-sustaining environment. The lives of those we lost to get to this moment were memorialised, and we remember those brave citizens each year on September 13th. Senator Stephen Gwen's keynote speech said it better than anyone. His words read,
"My brother Sean loved to build. When we were kids, I was the only one who played sports and ran for student congress. He was always tinkering with things. It wasn't weird in our house to suddenly come home to the distro box disassembled and arranged on the living room floor, or Sean crawling around the ventilation shafts because he heard a clicking. There was one time that I could never prove it, but I think he got to the dog. He was 10, mind you, 10 years old and already that gifted. Maybe gifted is the wrong word, because it wasn't just his talent, it was his curiosity and the absolute joy he got from breaking something apart and seeing how all the pieces mattered. As the years went by, we sort of drifted apart. He was just my weird, nerdy little brother who kept taking apart my stuff. We went to school on opposite sides of the world. He studied engineering and physics, a surprise to no one. I did my thing. As adults, we would check in from time to time, but I wouldn't say we were particularly close, more like acquaintances than brothers. We were just too different. I liked the Phoenix 5, he thought they were derivative. I thought the new citizenship program was an important way to reward the people who actively went to build a stronger nation. He thought it was elitist, and so it went. Many years ago, when I won my first district seat, Sean showed up to the victory party. I think an aide must have invited him. To be honest, it never occurred to me to even try. Someone on my staff said they saw him in the corner, obviously uncomfortable around the crowd. He didn't even come to talk to me. He just wrote a note and asked someone to give it to me. Here's what it said. "Hey, Stephen. You look like you had a lot of people to talk to, so I didn't want to interrupt. But I just wanted to say, you're awesome, man. I know we bicker and fight, but it gives me hope that someone who really believes in their convictions is going into government. It's really exciting. I'm happy for you. Just remember, no matter what ugliness surrounds you, be brave, be yourself, and you'll be fine. My brother Sean. Sean the Destroyer. Sean the Rebuilder." Sean was one of the many lost in the tragedy of 2125. Since then I've never been able to hear one of his aggravating rants on politics, or one of his ridiculously dull ramblings about alloys and stress points. It is a solace that the project that claimed my brother's life has now been completed. This monument, a small consolation compared to the loss of these people, will at least keep their names alive for the rest of humanity to see forever. You know what? Forgive my bluntness, but screw that. I don't want people to look at this memorial and be quiet and introspective. I want the names chiseled into this rock, to spark a fire in them, a fire to challenge themselves, to challenge humanity. I want the names on this rock to be a battle cry for all of us to excel, to burst out into the universe and find our destiny. So in the words of my stupid little brother, be brave everyone, be yourself, and we'll all be fine.